Thank you. So good evening to you guys in America, and good afternoon to you, Dan, in Australia, and the other people, I'm not sure where you're located, but a very warm welcome. And here we are. This is now our fourth session. So we're starting to make some inroads. Hopefully there's some sort of shift or change or development. I talked about evolving Refuge. So fingers crossed there's some sort of evolution taking place in our approach to Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. So today I'd be looking more so at the Sangha jewel, and then probably there'll be time at the end, so I'll be then just wrapping it up, the three jewels. Yeah, as Paula has said, I welcome questions. So when the times, where there's a pause, just jump on in with your, the icon for the hand, and I'll gladly receive your question. I think it's really important that you guys direct the direction we go, and that way I can accommodate whatever the needs are, or endeavor to accommodate, okay? So if we can just start with a brief meditation to begin with, to get our minds creating the causes for refuge. And this week I want to take it from Lama Zopa. So no doubt, I assume anyway, you guys do Lama Zopa all the time, every couple of weeks like we do in most of the other FPMT centers. If not, it's okay, because we'll just, get some familiarity with it at the moment. So I can, may I please be enabled to screen share? Thank you very much. Okay, so if you feel more comfortable with the visualization aspect, you could just visualize, as we have been doing, Guru Shakyamuni Buddha in front of us. Or if you feel that you are a bit more familiar with the refuge merit field and so forth, then what you can do is the one from Lama Zopa, which is this quite complicated, Guru Shakyamuni Buddha in the single form, but now elaborated to encompass all Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and in that extensive visualization. So you can choose either way. This one's got, down the bottom here, you can see the 8 snow lions holding up this large jeweled throne. And I'll just sort of show you. You've got Guru Shakyamuni Buddha, so in essence your guru, who also has Vajradhara at his heart, and at Vajradhara's heart is the syllable Hum. And there's 5 sets of gurus illustrated here. So we've got Maitreya, and then this is the extensive lineage. We've got Manjushri, then the profound. Okay, so we're talking about the method and the wisdom side. We've got Vajradhara up the top, and then the blessings from the practice lineage, the consecrated practices. And then we've got your guru, that you would have your root guru in front, and any of your other gurus in front of that person. So this is quite a complicated thing, and I wouldn't anticipate that you would get this first time. It's a work in progress. And after the 5 sets of gurus illustrated there, we then have the 5 sets of Buddhas. I never like the noise going into the microphone, so excuse me for that. I'll try to mute next time. So the 5 sets of Buddhas being in their Sambhogakaya and Nirmanakaya aspects, and we have like the 4 classes of tantra. So, action, performance, yoga, highest yoga tantra. These are illustrated all along here, for instance. And then we'd have the Nirmanakaya aspect here of the Sutra Buddhas. So earlier was the Tantric Buddhas, now it's the Sutra, the 1,000 Buddhas that will come in during this, fortunate eon, the 35 confession Buddhas that we make prostrations to, the 8 medicine Buddhas, and then the 5 sets of Sangha. So you've got the bodhisattvas here in this row, solitary realizers, so those who have attained liberation, who are solitary realizer arhats, completed their goal. the Hira Arhats below them, the Dakas and Dakinis, and then the Dharma protectors. So notice we've done 5 sets of gurus, 5 sets of Buddhas, 5 sets of Sangha, and they each have within them 5 sets of Dharma texts. And these are the sutra Dharma texts for the hearers, solitary realizers, those of the Mahayana. And then we also have the tantric Dharma texts, grouping action, performance, yoga together as a set, and then highest yoga tantra as another set. So this, when you do Guru Puja, Lama Tripa, this is the visualization that we established. I think it's page 81, something like this, and we established that. So if you are with any familiarity with Lama Tripa, you could do this extensive visualization as I read through the visualization of objects of refuge, taking us to the, where we get to do the refuge prayer together to establish the causes. We'll go through it together as like a bit of a meditation. But if you feel that that's a bit overwhelming, because I know I can get quite overwhelmed by that, because I don't feel like I'm a very strong visualizer. So, you might prefer just to do the single, okay? So we're all quite familiar with the single, and so I'll keep up this elaborate version for us in case people choose to try to bring that to mind. But the biggest thing with the visualization aspect is more about generating the feeling that we are, we've invoked through our our prayers, we've invoked the refuge merit field to appear before us. And although we don't have the pure karma to see that they are in actuality in front of us, we need to rely on some sort of trust or faith at the moment for that. So, but the most important thing is to get that feeling of being in the presence in actuality with the refuge merit field, and that they are here at all times with us, guiding us. I think it was Pabonka Rinpoche in Liberation of the Palm of Your Hand. He said something like to the effect that my teacher said that there is a perfect Buddha on the crown of every sentient being. And, if only we could remember that at all times. So let's begin and doing the Lama Tröpa introduction part to establishing the merit field, and then taking the causes for generating refuge in our mind. So we'll just take our time. First, allowing our mind to catch up with our body, being present and ready. And so we can anchor our mind on the rise and fall of the abdomen with the incoming and outgoing breath, just to bring ourselves to readiness. And just really allowing ourselves to open up to the practice of being together, engaging in something so truly precious. Any happiness we wish for, temporary or ultimate, for ourselves, our loved ones, particularly those we find challenging, but all sentient beings, will only come about due to virtue as its cause. And so now, feeling more ready, we can engage in the visualization. And we can imagine that in the space in front of us is a large jeweled throne supported by 8 great snow lions. On top of this throne is a variegated lotus, moon, and sun disk, one on top of the other. Representations of the 3 principal aspects of the path: renunciation, bodhicitta, and the correct view, wisdom realizing emptiness. And seated on top, the essence of our own kind root guru in the aspect of Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. His holy body is of magnificent gold, and he has a ushnisha on the top of his head. 1 face, 2 arms. His right hand is in the mudra of controlling the earth. And his left hand in the mudra of concentration, holding an alms bowl full of nectar. He's wearing the saffron robes of a monk. His holy body adorned with all the marks and signs. Representing his realizations and qualities. And his holy body is in the nature of transparent light. And he sits in a Vajra posture in the center of an aura of light rays. And so stabilize this. If going on to do the elaborate visualization, surrounding him are the direct and indirect gurus, the yidams, Buddhas, bodhisattvas, Rakas, dakinis, Dharma protectors, and guardians of the teachings. In front of each of them, on a faultless throne, sits the Dharma, explained by them in the form of texts, also having the nature of light. And so whether Shakyamuni Buddha is in singular form, embodying all Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, or if you've chosen the elaborate visualization, know that each aspect is incredibly pleased with us right now. And so we can remember their qualities and kindness and allow a sense of great devotion to arise toward them, generating a sense of faith. We can also think from beginningless time until now, I and all mother sentient beings have been experiencing the various general sufferings of samsara numberless times, and especially the sufferings of the evil gone realms, the lower realms. And so generate useful fear or intelligent fear of this type of suffering that we've been experiencing beginninglessly. The greater the sense of fear, useful fear, intelligent fear, healthy fear, the greater the cause of our refuge, the stronger the refuge will be. And so generating that really strong sense that we need the protection of the three rare sublime ones abiding in front of us. And just as we have suffered since beginningless time, so have all mother sentient beings surrounding us. Just as we wish to be free of suffering, now turn your object of focus to be all other sentient beings, and wishing that they too be free from this beginningless and even endless suffering, unless we can become liberated and enlightened. So generating the Mahayana cause of compassion. Generating even a sense of responsibility that I myself will cause them to be free from suffering and its causes by attaining the result of the Buddha Dharma Sangha within my own continuum, the resultant refuge. It's difficult for us to see the end of samsara or the depth of our suffering because we have so much unpurified negative karma waiting to ripen. We're overwhelmed by karma and delusions. And so creating so many future causes that bind us, chain us, iron chains of karma and delusions, imprison us in samsara. At this time, we have received a perfect human rebirth, qualified by 8 freedoms and 10 richnesses, which has been difficult to find, but once found so highly meaningful. Can be used to attain a good future rebirth, liberation, and even enlightenment. So we're fully primed to be able to benefit sentient beings now in this life. Furthermore, we've met the precious teachings of the Buddha, also so difficult to meet. And the holy virtuous friend who reveals the complete, unmistaken path. Sutra and tantra, all the causes for enlightenment. But if I don't try now to attain the most sublime state of enlightenment, which is beyond the state of samsara, beyond the state of nirvana, temporary nirvana, mere nirvana, the complacency of nirvana, if I don't try to attain the sublime state of enlightenment now, then I too will have to experience the general sufferings of samsara and the lower realms over and over again. And so who has the power to protect us from these sufferings? It's only the Guru Triple Gem abiding in front of us. They have achieved the result already, have generated true paths, true cessations. They have the perfect causes to be free from samsara. Therefore, they know the way out, they know the methods. They can protect us. And so increase that sense of faith so that wholeheartedly we can entrust ourselves to the Guru, Three Rare Sublime Ones abiding in front. There's no time to waste. This is something we cannot postpone. Having all the internal and external conditions complete. And so generating that really sincere, strong wish that I must attain enlightenment for the welfare of all sentient beings. Therefore, I'm going to take refuge in my Guru and the Three Rare Sublime Ones. And we can do the Refuge bodhicitta prayer together on the next slide. So we, in our brief meditation, we established the causes for Mahayana refuge: fear, compassion, and faith. And now we can recite 3 times together. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. And then to make sure we have the 3 principal aspects of the path also complete, we can reflect on, having reflected already on renunciation, bodhicitta, and now we can reflect on emptiness. And so this I taking refuge, this I that will attain enlightenment. If we were to search for this independent, solid, concrete, unrelated I that we feel amongst the body, speech, and mind, it cannot be found. The I is empty of inherent existence. This I is merely labeled by the mind. Even the action of seeking enlightenment for the welfare of all sentient beings, also totally empty, not existing inherently at all, totally empty. The enlightenment we seek, totally empty. The transmigratory beings we seek to benefit, totally empty. Merely labeled by mind. Existing, yes, merely labeled by mind, not inherently. And then with the visualization that we've got in front of us, we can now do the dissolution of it. And so if you did the elaborated version, you can imagine that all of the 5 sets of the gurus, the Buddhas, the Sangha, the Dharma, they all absorb upwards into Guru Shakyamuni Buddha, the central figure. And then Guru Shakyamuni Buddha absorbs into us. Transforming our body, speech, and mind so that we too become inseparable from Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. We send out light rays from our heart, blessing all sentient beings surrounding us, enlightening them. They too transform into Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. And so we can feel a sense of great joy and delight that as we motivated to bring all sentient beings to enlightenment, therefore I must achieve enlightenment, we can imagine that this has now actually happened by creating a very strong imprint for it to become an actuality in the future. Okay. And so this week we're going to be looking at the Sangha jewel, and I just want to move the screen down so I can see you all better. Gonna move it down here. There we go. Okay, so we're looking at the Sangha jewel, and the Sangha jewel is a person. So last week we looked at true paths and true cessations. We looked at the Dharma jewel. True paths mainly, except for basically one type of true path, but basically they're all consciousnesses, except for vows, okay, which are not consciousness. But true paths are basically consciousnesses which begin from the path of seeing, where the person actually comes to realize non-conceptually emptiness of inherent existence. at that point, they have the powerful antidote to overcome the root of all of our, suffering in samsara, this, ignorance that grasps at inherent existence, self or phenomena. So having that powerful antidote, that's the actual refuge, So this true path, or when that powerful antidote has abandoned a portion of obscurations, in accord with the strength of that true path, because you don't just abandon, it's not just one true path and you abandon all obscurations. So you'll abandon, firstly, do you remember I talked about the stains, how you get rid of the coarse stains, these green chili burgers or whatever it is you guys had, you get rid of the coarse stains and then you get rid of the subtle stains and so forth. So this true path is combined with bodhicitta best, right, is going to destroy the afflictive obscurations and then the knowledge obscurations. So true paths induce true cessations. That's the Dharma jewel. But these exist in the continuum of the person. Like samsara exists within the continuum of the person, our true paths, true cessations, which bring about liberation and enlightenment, exist within the continuum of the being. So here with the Sangha jewel, we're talking about a person, a being who has in their continuum these realizations that are true paths, or you've got to have true paths first, right? True cessations. So they might have just have true paths only and not yet the true cessations, or they may have both. So the Sangha jewel is important to realize that we're talking about a person, we're talking about an Arya being, a superior being, someone from the path of seeing, path of meditation, path of no more learning. So we're talking about arhats on the path of no more learning for the Hinayana, or the Buddha. Even though the Buddha is a Buddha jewel, he's also a Sangha jewel because he's a person, So this Sangha jewel is that. So it's any Arya person who possesses a true path of true cessation in their continuum. And they can be not necessarily ordained community. So when we talk about the Sangha jewel, we're talking about at a like a level that's Mahayana Aryas, for instance, the conventional Sangha jewel. When we talk about the conventional Sangha jewel, that can include ordained or non-ordained Arya beings. And they are the refuge that we're relying on. We're ultimately relying on the true paths, true cessations in the continuum of the Sangha jewel. So that would be like your ultimate Sangha jewel, true paths, true cessations in the continuum of these Mahayana Aryas, for instance. So remember, my presentation is coming out of the school of thought that belongs to the Prasangika Mahayana, the Prasangika or the Middle Way Consequent School. So that's the presentation that I always draw from unless I state differently. So these true paths, true cessations in the continuum of Buddhas and bodhisattvas, for instance, that's our ultimate Sangha jewel that we're relying on, seeking protection from. The conventional Sangha jewel, so this is where we're talking about, from this context, the Mahayana Arya beings, the persons, the Buddhas and bodhisattvas who possess those true paths and true cessations. And they can be lay or ordained. Okay? When we start talking about the symbolic Sangha, we're talking about ordinary monks and nuns. So therefore, we're talking about ordained community. Okay? So there's a difference there. Now, going back to these Arya beings or superior beings, it's good to get familiar with the terminology because different translators will use various ones at times. So these Arya beings, we don't know who they are. They don't walk around advertising, like the hats indicating what group they belong to or things like this. So we can never tell who's an Arya being or a bodhisattva and so forth. We cannot even tell who has realizations higher than ourselves. So this is a problem as far as protecting our virtue from being destroyed, because when we create negativities in relation to objects that are Arya beings, Buddhas, bodhisattvas, we actually destroy, a great many virtues that we try so hard to accumulate and put in so much effort. So this is why I think it was Pramanavartika studies with Dhammakirti, valid cognition, it talks about not being able to take the measure of another being. Only Buddhas can take the measure of another being. So, for our mind to protect our virtue, to protect our minds, we can't take the measure of another. We don't know their realizations. We don't know who's an actual Sangha jewel having these true paths, true cessations. And so this is the really good training for our mind when we take refuge, because we're trying to train our mind, to tame our mind. And if we can try to adopt these principles in our refuge teachings, then we stand to benefit. So as far as the monks and nuns, the symbolic Sangha, so they, we usually talk about a collection of four, but whether we learn in refuge, whether it be four or an individual Sangha, we should try to hold them with the same sort of esteem as if they were in actuality an actual Sangha jewel, an Arya being, because that way we're training our mind. So general, ordinary monks and nuns, they will, perhaps I can say probably not be actual Sangha jewels, having these Arya, an Arya being with the true paths, true cessations. And so when we take refuge, we're really keeping in mind the ultimate, the true paths, true cessations in the conventional Sangha jewel, but we're using the symbolic Sangha as kind of like a stepping stone to develop that faith and trust, as they too are trying, like all of ourselves, in moving along the direction to cultivating true paths, true cessations. And so it's kind of like that, the ultimate Sangha jewel, true paths, true cessations, conventional Sangha jewel, those Arya beings having this realization in their continuum. That's who we're utilizing as our causal refuge. So they've already a causal refuge, remember? They've already attained the result. It exists in other people's continuums. They are beings on whom we can rely, and we rely on them wholeheartedly until we can establish within our own continuum the actual realizations, and then become, Sangha jewel, Dharma jewel, and Buddha jewels ourselves. So just like in the past, sometimes it might be helpful to understand a little bit about the 8 qualities as illustrated by Maitreya in Sublime Continuum. So only briefly will I discuss these, just to give us a bit of an insight into what we're actually taking refuge in, the qualities of these Sangha jewels. So the verse, Maitreya's verse begins, because of pure, I've colored that differently because I'm trying to illustrate that belongs to the true cessations. And then the 3 in yellow indicating the true paths from this verse. So because of pure, inner exalted wisdoms, seeing modes and varieties. So of these 8 qualities, these first 3 related to true paths are knowing modes. So when we know modes, we know modes, we know reality, we know things exactly as they are. It's kind of like this is pointing to the ultimate truth. So these beings have the realization of ultimate truth, seeing things exactly as they are. So non-conceptually realizing the emptiness of inherent existence of the self, the aggregates, any other phenomenon. When we know varieties, here we're talking not about the ultimate truth, but we're talking about the conventional truth. We're talking about knowing conventionalities. So, knowing, for instance, that all beings possess Buddha nature, knowing that the mind is clear and knowing that the stains can be removed from because they haven't, impacted the very nature of the mind. They haven't penetrated into the nature of the mind, therefore they can be removed. So basically knowing how phenomena exist in actuality is the modes, and then seeing that how they exist in that they're like merely labeled by mind, they don't exist in the way they appear when one's not in meditative equipoise. So knowing varieties and having this whole inner exalted wisdom or inner knowledge, then that can, having this inner knowledge, that's basically pointing to this, Arya's, the terminology we've used in the past is Arya's exalted knowledge of meditative equipoise that is non-conceptually realizing emptiness, so that only emptiness appears. There's no other conventionality, there's no appearances of true existence, anything like that. There's no generic image. It's only emptiness appearing for them. Okay, so this is indicating true paths. And then true cessations, how are they pure? Well, when you have a true cessation, you have, what is it? They talk about it being twofold purity. Their emptiness from the Prasangika point of view, so lack of inherent existence. But they also have this other purity, which is purity of the object of negation. They're pure of adventitious stains. They're pure of like a portion of afflictive obscurations, depending on which true path induced it, if it was on the path of seeing or the path of meditation and so forth. So they can be pure of afflictive obscurations, a portion thereof, or entirely free of afflictive obscurations. And afflictive obscurations are that which mainly hinder liberation. Okay, so they're on their way to attaining liberation or have attained liberation if they have abandoned entirely afflictive obscurations. So in that way, they're pure of obscurations of grasping at inherent existence or true existence. Also, another meaning of pure is another level of obscurations where they're now pure of knowledge obscurations. So from the 8th ground is where you start as a bodhisattva, for instance, on the Mahayana path of meditation, that 8th ground, on the pure ground, pure because you've abandoned afflictive obscurations, and now you're on the pure grounds and you're abandoning with a true path knowledge obscurations and attaining true cessations, having abandoned a portion of knowledge obscurations that are in accord with the true path that induce them. So in succession, going from coarsest to most subtle. And then when you get to the path of normal learning, Buddhahood, you have fully abandoned all of these knowledge obscurations. And so that is the supreme true cessation. And we looked at that maybe in the second week, I think it was, when we talked about the 4 bodies of a Buddha. And we had, the Dharmakaya, so the Buddha's exalted knowledge, realizing in one mind, in one moment of mind, ultimate truth, emptiness, and conventional truth, all other phenomena. So realizing all phenomena, the 2 truths in a single moment with one single mind, that only exists on the ground of a Buddha because they've abandoned these knowledge obscurations. So we said that the emptiness of that mind, of the omniscient mind, was the essence kaya, and that had 2 divisions. And one was talking about the natural purity, the lack of inherent existence, and the other was the adventitious purity. So that was the supreme true cessation. So do you remember that? We can review it later if you like. So pure, these true cessations are pure of what? They're pure of, objects of abandonment. And they're also pure in this context of what we call inferior obscurations. They're not actually obscurations of the 2, which is afflictive and knowledge obscurations, but these inferiority or obscurations of inferiority, or however they're termed, this is where a bodhisattva is free of those inferiority obscurations, which actually hinder that being from attaining the mind of enlightenment. So therefore, they don't actually occur from the path of seeing onwards, because a bodhisattva enters the Mahayana path of accumulation with this uncontrived bodhicitta. So I'm not sure why it's mentioned here as pure in that context. Who knows? But it's certainly not an actual true cessation. So it might be just in name only that they mention it. Now then, usually Maitreya's text has been following these 8 qualities, but then the last 2, he's gone 3 and 3, and then the last 2 are a summary. So the last 2, intelligent, is a summary of the ones in yellow here, which are true paths, and irreversible is a summary of the 3 we spoke about being pure. So it says, because of pure inner exalted wisdoms, seeing modes and varieties, the assembly of the intelligent, irreversible ones just possesses unsurpassable, excellent qualities. So these are the beings that we're relying on as our ultimate Sangha jewel, be the true paths, true cessations in their continuum. The conventional Sangha jewel is the actual being possessing those, the Arya being, which could be lay or ordained, whoever has these true paths, true cessations. And so they're intelligent, this assembly are intelligent, referring to the true paths, because they possess that knowledge of modes and varieties. They possess that knowledge of ultimate truth and, conventionalities, how conventionalities actually exist. They're irreversible, referred to the true cessations, because it's kind of like once you have abandoned a portion of obscurations, they can never arise again. So abandoning obscurations is a one-time thing, in the sense that those very objects of abandonment that you have abandoned cannot occur again. Okay? So in this way, although we're tirelessly working at cultivating virtue and destroying it with our anger and wrong views, and we've mastered non-virtue and all these things that embed us in cyclic existence, and we suffer again and again and again. But as far as liberation and enlightenment, it's a one-time thing. Once we attain those results, we can never be reversed from them. We don't fall back to a lesser realization. So these are irreversible. So that's a little bit complicated, and it's part of learning Refuge. So I think it's good not to water it down and to introduce what these qualities are, just so that we know what we're taking refuge in at an ultimate and conventional level. Beings, who have these realizations. So in this way, they can be our protector, because they've been there, done that. They know the way to destroy the obscurations, to free themselves from obscurations, and therefore can free others from obscurations. All right, so how does that all help us? Well, I guess what we need to do is think about, well, how can we strengthen our connection and relate all of this to the Sangha jewel? How can we increase our faith, one of the main causes of refuge, so that we can entrust ourselves to the Sangha jewel? So we don't know, who is an Arya being. And, when we think of the likelihood of who the Arya beings are, then, for my mind, naturally, you think of, they're not going to come out and say they're Buddhas, right? But, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Kabje Lama Zopa Rinpoche, our other precious Geshis, wherever we are, any Geshe is just utterly precious, and yeah, just a wonderful object of refuge. So, because they embody so many beautiful qualities of love and compassion and kindness and bodhicitta and ethics and all of these amazing, wonderful attributes, wisdom and so forth. So, how can we strengthen our faith and our trust? And it's kind of like, well, how do the Sangha offer protection? So this is a question for you guys to think about and to, put in the chat, or just, unmute yourself if you like and say your name so I can see where you are. But think about it first and see how do Sangha offer protection from the lower realms? How do they offer protection for me from samsara? How do they bring us to liberation and enlightenment? Has anyone got any ideas? Barbara, I can see your hand up there. But also, Paula, I'm very happy if you want to run things. I don't mean to step on any toes at all, ever.
Dear Venerable Barbara, go for it. You go, girl.
Okay, thank you. I guess they teach us the Dharma, is what comes to my mind.
Yeah. You want to elaborate any more?
I guess the only thing that I would add is because that's how I'm learning the whole path.
Totally. Yeah. Beyond precious, right? When you think about who are the Sangha, who are the Sangha jewel, and any other ideas? Because it's more than just teaching the path. Aaron, where are you? I just want to make sure I've got you on my screen. There we are, my friend.
So my understanding is that wherever the Dharma is, the Buddha is. So the Sangha, by communicating the Dharma, is also the Buddha in a sense, or some type of expression of it.
Oh, that's an interesting way you termed it, an expression of it. Certainly from a Mahayana context, we do see like the Guru as the Buddha, right? Yeah. So that's an interesting way you express that. I like that. So yeah, feel free to elaborate as well.
Well, the way I understand it is like the Buddha has 3 bodies. So, and for deluded minds, we can't directly see some of the bodies in their pure form. And just as the Guru kind of comes down and is an expression of the Buddha, so is the Sangha. The Sangha is a kind of a expression of that as well for our deluded minds. Perhaps even for a more deluded mind in some sense, because it's less personal.
Less personal? Elaborate?
Yes.
In what way?
So when I think Sangha, I think of like the Arya Sangha, who preserves the traditions that work and the lineages that work. Mm-hmm. But just because even if I were included in that lineage, it wouldn't mean necessarily that I have a guru or I have the direct teacher instructing me. Mm-hmm. And if we replace it with like the Buddha, and like one is like the words of the Buddha, which are an expression of the Buddha, but the guru is also the Buddha as an instructor teaching me directly.
Yeah, really nice. I like that. Thank you. I think Kodo, you had your hand up before.
Well, the Arya information that you just talked about, that's kind of new for me. So now when I do my prostrations and I think I take refuge in the Sangha, it's going to be, for me personally, it's going to be extremely much more expansive.
Yeah,
and
nice.
I have had some wild experiences that already give me faith. And this is just so beautiful. I feel like my whole prostrating practice is just gone out, far out into the universe. It feels so beautiful. Just
I love
so
your faith.
beautiful. Thank you.
Your
Thank
faith
you,
inspires
everybody.
me as well, because I feel your faith. When you come through, you're so gorgeously passionate about it, and your words, your heart, your feeling just gets so expressed in your tone and your way. It's really beautiful. So I really appreciate you sharing, because it gives me sort of like a full feeling in the heart, and even like shivers, goosebumps. So thank you for sharing. Well, it's really good.
I'm 61, and it's this tradition, the Tibetan Buddhists, who speak so directly and clearly about some of the experiences that I've had that no other traditions. And I was Sufi, and I did this, did that, yada, da, da. And this tradition says it. And it doesn't just explain this little experience that I've had. It says why, and all of the billions of steps and all the commentaries about why that happened and how that's connected to the next thing. I just feel like I'm already in heaven. Just being here.
Affirmed it every step of the way for you.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Anyone else who would like to share anything?
Venerable, if I may, very quickly.
Take your time. We're not in a hurry.
I love how all the participants come at these things from, everyone obviously comes from a very different way and personalizes it and finds an entryway. It's just marvelous. Anyway, because of my travels, I spent time in Bodh Gaya, quite a long time.
Wow.
And, you know, in the winter season, streets are thronged with ordained Sangha.
Yeah.
All nations. And you feel it's kind of heaven because, you know, ordained Sangha, right? So what can go wrong? And I remember I got to the airport and I slipped on the shiny floor. It wasn't dangerous or anything. It was just a small thing. And a massive monk lifted me up back onto my feet. That's what I remember of ordained Sangha. That's it.
Awesome. That's brilliant. Certainly, like I haven't been to Bodh Gaya for some time. It's maybe 10 years or something. So sad, but it's like being in a pure realm, isn't it? You know, when you're there, like at Root Institute, oh my goodness, and you've got all the Rinpoches and the Lamas and the Sangha and all of this sort of around you, and then you go like to His Holiness's teachings. You walk in the streets and it's shoulder to shoulder like this, and it's just this sea of maroon, and like you say, other traditions as well. I think it's the closest thing that we can probably feel in this world, this, you know, existence to being in a pure realm or something like that. Yeah, so they're a major source of inspiration, aren't they? They are, you know, they help us accomplish the path. They inspire us. They're an example. Even for myself as a Sangha member, I don't, you know, take it lightly. When I see another set of robes, I just feel this great joy in my heart. You know, if I'm somewhere like, let's say, I don't know, Rome airport. Why not? If I was going somewhere, you know, Institute Lama Zopa or whatever, and I see some robes, it's kind of like, oh, you know, like wherever you see one set of robes or even many robes, the robes carry just such a beautiful blessing, I think. And, you know, Rinpoche talks about that. And even just seeing the robes is just so precious. You know, it's so cute when like there's even been like 90-year-old ladies and other people who have come up and said, oh, I love your outfit. And it's just so precious, my outfit. It's so gorgeous because, you know, that's not me, that's the robes which are blessed, having this beautiful impact and perhaps ripening some sort of imprint for her, certainly creating an imprint, and may she experience that fruition of that imprint soon. But, you know, just seeing, whether it be the robe Sangha, like our precious holy gurus, and, you know, ordinary Sangha, you know, they are, like people have said, the ones who give us teachings and inspire us. They give us vows. Can you imagine? Like, we can take vows from these beings and, you know, cultivate virtue, causes of happiness, guard against non-virtue. So by which they protect us from the lower realms. You know, if we can learn their teachings, master their teachings, reflect on them again and again and again, having studied them first, so we've got a correct understanding, and reflect on them, meditate on them, analytically, single-pointedly, then we can penetrate that truth, and we can actually, you know, be free then of samsara. So they are like this most amazing, precious jewel. Now, Aaron, I think it was, talked about the connection between the Sangha and the Dharma, the Sangha and the Buddha. And, you know, I think like this, like, imagine if we never had any Sangha in this world. Like, it's actually worth reflecting on, you know? Like, take a moment, like, 'cause I think it's you know, it's worth the moment. So imagine your life never having even seen, laid eyes on, heard even the word Sangha. How would that be for you in this life? Never hearing bodhicitta, great compassion, emptiness, not even hearing that if we wish for happiness, we must create the cause, which is virtue. If we seek to cultivate the Dharma, for it to become pure, we really need to give up everything that we usually crave and lust after, reputation and acquiring and, you know, being displeased and with losing things or being, you know, put down or disrespected, or, you know, got to give up our thirst for praise, you know, all our 8 worldly concerns that generally control us. And so if we didn't have Sangha, would we even hear the word Dharma? When we think of the books we read, well, by whom are they written other than Sangha? The teachings of the Buddha that have been preserved and passed down by old transmissions, commentaries, so purely intact. We wouldn't have without Sangha. Even Buddha, the Buddha is born from bodhisattvas, Sangha. Buddha was once a bodhisattva, then became Buddha, but also other Buddhas like Maitreya, Manjushri, and so forth manifested as bodhisattvas at the time of Shakyamuni, before he became a Buddha, and in his previous lives and so forth. So without the Sangha, we wouldn't have Buddha. Therefore, we wouldn't have Dharma. How could we ever wish for lasting happiness? And so I like the legal test, but for. You know, but for Sangha, there'd be no Buddha, no Dharma. And so if we had no Sangha, maybe we've got a sense of how that would be for us. But then think about it for your future life. If there is such a thing as a future life, which I would suggest we assume for now, there's no harm in assuming it. If there is a future life, and let's say we're not with a precious human rebirth, maybe not even a human rebirth, we're going to find ourselves in the same situation, aren't we? Not recognizing what is Sangha, what are the teachings of the Buddha. So as much as we feel the pain of imagining how it would be to be bereft of Sangha now, in future lives, unless we cultivate virtue and attain a good supportive basis for Dharma, we can find ourselves very quickly in the situation in the lower realms, where we wouldn't even know Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. And so I really think it's kind of, can really drive our practice now to develop that sense of appreciation and not just to take it for granted or dismiss it or diminish it. The more we can see the preciousness, the more we can see that this is how the Sangha are beneficial. The Sangha are guiding us in this life, future lives, bringing us from the lower realms, from samsara, towards liberation and enlightenment. So anyway, this is just my random thoughts. So we've sort of looked at what, in what ways the Sangha guide us. So then as far as refuge, when we take sort of refuge commitments and things like that, then just as when we saw a Buddha, we try to see it not as decoration, but to see Buddhas as they are in actuality. The Dharma text, to see them as in actuality, true paths, true cessations, and, make offerings of incense and flowers at every syllable of the Dharma, anything we've studied or, so forth. In the same way, when we take refuge as a commitment, then we take even one member of the Sangha, and in training our mind, we try to see even one member of the Sangha as an actual Sangha, as one embodying true paths, true cessations. This is the training for our mind to help us to progress, okay? They may not be in actuality that, and it's only us that benefits from having that correct approach, because then we can then progress in our path and benefit others. So this would be one of the mindsets to adopt when we formally go for refuge and entrust ourselves to the Three Rare Sublime Ones. Also, part of the refuge commitments is to treat all members of Sangha community, even their robes, with respect. So do you know what a dingwa is? It's that, it's like a maroon cloth that we Sangha members put down on our cushions when we sit on the, in the gompa and so forth. Yeah, it's got a little slit along the middle, which is, it's like open. We imagine the blessings going in, the teachings going in. So we put it on our mat in a particular direction, and we sit on this blessed dingwa. It gets blessed during ordination and so forth. So even stepping over Sangha dingwas is not something to be done. You're stepping over blessed, kind of like their robes, an extension of their robes, so to speak. So if you're walking and you even see like a maroon piece of cloth, we see this often a little. How does this happen? I don't know. Maybe it's a manifestation of our guru, but I know I come across, maroon single strand of cotton. And so as part of refuge, we see that as precious, because we see that as identifying with the Sangha jewel in our mind. And so we always pick it off the ground, and I usually tie it on a like a branch of a tree, somewhere where it's up high off the ground. So once again, this is just our own training. And this is what the teachings are suggesting we do as to what to adopt when we actually, formally take that commitment of going for refuge. So having equal respect for all, having respect for the robes, even the cloths that they sit on, all these sorts of things. Now, the other thing, we had a very beautiful, precious Annie Marg here, and she taught me this years ago, because we were buying serviettes, and I thought, oh, let's get the maroon ones, right? That's probably not a good idea. And I'm like, oh. And she was like, because you're going to be wiping your mouth with them all. And, we're thinking when we see the maroon, we were thinking, like Sangha. So then to get a maroon serviette and wipe your mouth all over it, it's not really like the mind of respect. So I was really grateful for that teaching from her. And, I guess we can extrapolate that even, like sometimes people have placemats. You call them placemats, where you put your plate of food. Yeah. You always got to check with translations, don't we? So, if they've got like monks and nuns and all of this sort of stuff over them, then we go and put our plate of food on it, and we shovel it all in and slop it all down and spill it on the placemat. Probably not a good sign of respect as well. So when we train in refuge, we try to train in what are the small ways even that I can bring attention and mindfulness to the trainings of what to adopt, how to develop that mind of respect. And these are probably just, simple extrapolations. If we're picking up even a single piece of cotton, then why would we, then use yellow and maroon serviettes and so forth. And many of us have the opportunity of serving lunch to our teachers or in, Dharma centers and things like that. So although we might think, oh, let's get the yellow, thinking of like, being a holy sort of color for us, that's, not something that they're going to be wanting to wipe their mouth all over anyway. So yeah, these are just some ideas as well. So it's very easy to criticize and complain and disrespect Sangha, because we're all in this samsara together, drowning in our own afflictions and karma, and everyone's doing their best, and we're all a work in progress. And I really love that phrase, work in progress. For me, I don't know, the past decade or more that I've been using that, it just helps me to not be so tight or strict or beat myself up if I don't know this, or I should know this, or I did this, I failed in this way. It helps me to be a better friend to myself. So if we're a work in progress, of course we're going to make mistakes. Okay. And it's very easy for others to hold us in a particular way and to never update their image of us if we make mistakes. But practicing Dharma is not that. So practicing Dharma is allowing people to make mistakes, allowing them to change, allowing them to grow, seeing that we are a work in progress, not holding them to a high, ridiculous standard that perhaps they don't even hold themselves to. So criticizing and complaining about the Sangha is something that is something that we should all definitely not do. And this is much harder for me, I think, than you guys, because my friends are Sangha. And so therefore the people that annoy me are going to be Sangha. The people that, frustrate me at times are going to be Sangha. The people that I love and cherish are going to be Sangha. And, friends can become enemies for a day and then become friends again. So, for me, it feels even harder because my core group are Sangha. And so if I'm generating a frustrating thought to somebody, or maybe even a lingering frustration in response to someone, and their Sangha, I'm creating great negativities. I was really blessed with, we have a beautiful Geshe here at our center, and he just, epitomizes love and compassion and bodhicitta. And I was feeling this sense of frustration over a big thing. It wasn't just a trivial incident. And a few of us were being triggered. And he said these words, 6 words, thanking this person in earshot of me, about a meter away. And I treated it like a teaching because it changed my mind in that one moment. And that's just the power of his bodhicitta. So just to say 6 words thanking somebody, it was like, that's how a bodhisattva thinks about these things. And so it was just like this amazing balm to my heart where I just let go in that instant. I hope it happens again. I hope it happens every time. But in that instant, I was blessed with at least a taste of that teaching. And wow, this is what bodhicitta does in action. And it was just so gorgeous because I wasn't supposed to be the audience, although I think it was a gorgeous teaching for me to hear. I think that I was a definite part of that teaching. But explicitly what it looked like was I was just eavesdropping because I was about a meter away. But I really think that was the most precious teaching. So to see these bodhisattvas, to see these Sangha jewels, to see these precious holy beings who embody these qualities, even just simple 6 words can instantly transform the mind from what was feeling very triggered in a situation and very like cautious and frustrated even. And just to hear those 6 words and just go, just to let it all go in that moment. It was just so amazing. And then because, sometimes engaging in certain conversations don't really have a meaningful point. If an action's already been done, it can't be rectified. So to hold on to a situation and respond in that situation of how it was for me or anything other than what he showed, may not have created a very good situation at all. Whereas by able to just let it go and just focus on harmony, it was really beautiful. So yeah, it's like these precious jewels we have, these Sangha jewels, all our geshis, wherever they are, and all their qualities and so forth, really help us to stop this non-virtue of criticizing and complaining, and to help us purify negativity. So, we create so much non-virtue in relation to Sangha jewel, Dharma jewel, Buddha jewel, and we can do preliminary practice. And I hope you guys get to do this at the retreat weekend, where you can actually go through, Namo Guru Be, and you just, I take refuge in the Buddha, and you just visualize, purifying nectar. We'll talk about it maybe next week. I think we'll talk about it maybe next week a little bit, in case you do it on the retreat weekend. And then I say weekend because that's what we do at Chenrezig here. We have a weekend, but your retreat practice day, whatever format that takes for you, I think it's just one day maybe. And then we bring in the qualities of all the realizations that these holy Sangha jewels have, and then we come under their protection. So this is what we're trying to do, is to purify negativities, accumulate the blessings, the qualities to transform our mind and come under the protection of the Sangha jewel, so that we can become ourselves the Sangha jewel in reality, attaining the resultant Sangha jewel stage. All right, so if we're supposed to take refuge in beings that are from the path of seeing onwards, having Dharma jewel in their continuum, true paths, true cessations, being a Sangha jewel, progressing, abandoning all obscurations and attaining the Buddha jewel. Well, if ordinary Sangha, people just, like me in robes, if we're not beyond samsara, how is that a refuge for you? So isn't it the same as any sort of ordinary worldly refuge? You might go down to the marketplace and it's Chinese New Year time, and you might, get your fortune told, or your tarot cards done or something like that. Isn't it the same as any other worldly refuge like that? How do we think about that? But as the ordinary Sangha people, just, in everyday robes, not having these realizations. Any ideas? Yes, Paula.
Shayla has been hanging on like this.
Oh, bless her heart. Where is she? I want to see her face. Can I see her face?
Come on, Shayla, are you there?
I can't see her
I just
face.
wanted to say my explanation of what I learned from the ordained is by observation and emulating and and seeing that they are human and that it's okay for me to just to simplify what you've been saying. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Aaron, you've got something to say.
I think for your consideration question, my understanding is sort of like the reality is we are supposed to be treating everyone like that because everybody is in some sense has a Buddha nature. But it's more like training wheels with the Sangha. It's sort of like these are the people we can trust, and it's more transactional in the sense that we're getting the Dharma from them. So it's easier for us, quote unquote, to start doing that with them than with random people in the grocery store.
Sure. Okay. Yep. Thank you. No one else? Lama Zopa Rinpoche had this question himself. So he was thinking about it and going, well, hang on, how's that work? Because we're not supposed to take. Barbara, you'd like to add something? You're very welcome. Just unmute yourself, darling. Yeah.
What my thought is that I don't know who has realizations and who does not. So you could be a Buddha. I don't know that.
Clearly I'm not. I'll advertise that for you now.
But you know what I'm getting at? We don't know. We don't know. You
can't see my mind, mind is like formless. So, you can see my body, but you can't see any of my minds. So you don't know my realizations and things like that. And we may behave, for me, I'm behaving poorly out of karma and afflictions, but other beings who have realizations may behave seemingly poor, right?
Yep.
They will behave in accord with our karma. They will mirror some things for us. So they may behave very poorly in some ways as a teaching, maybe to shock us so that we actually see it. So we see the mud on our face in the mirror of Dharma. So they may not have those behaviors otherwise than a display of teaching, because as you say, we can't see what their realizations are. So erring on the side of caution, as Aaron is kind of getting at, this is the training for all of us. So Rinpoche talked about, this as well, because he was saying, well, how is it different to any ordinary being, which we don't aim to take refuge in, ordinary worldly beings? And he was saying it's not the same, because, the Sangha in robes and things like that, we look at, and I think, was it, I don't see the person's name. Who was the first person that I didn't see their face, but they shared, and they were talking about examples, I think it was.
It's me.
Oh, how do you say your name?
It's Shayla.
Shayla?
It's actually Shella, but it's easier for everybody just to say Shayla.
Shayla, thank you, because I wouldn't know how to pronounce it on the screen that with the X there. Shayla, thank you, Shayla. So I think you were the one who talked about, with the example. Yeah, so the Sangha in robes are an example of what they're doing. And, it's a big responsibility, because as I think it was Barbara may have said, I might be just getting confused now, we are human, we do make mistakes. And, but there is this responsibility on us to be an example for others. And it's a hard gig sometimes, because karma and afflictions can be really strong. But what we're trying to endeavor to do here is to live in a way of non-harmfulness, to live in vows, so to live in morality. And that is a source of happiness. And that by taking a vow not to have sexual contact at all, we are... and wonderful, because we are giving others the gift of knowing that you can trust that I'm not going to cause harm to you and your relationship. That's a beautiful gift to be able to offer. And that's in relation to every single sentient being. So if we take a vow not to kill, then in relation to every single sentient being, we can give them this gift of, I'm giving you protection in that sense that I'm not harming. And so, you know, these people who live in like, you know, 253 vows, and I think it's like 364 or something, you know, fully ordained monks and nuns and stuff. They are, you know, living in morality. They are trying to protect their karma. They are a source of happiness, even living in 32 vows as novice monks and nuns. And so obviously the more, you know, precepts we take, the stronger our practice is going to be there, and the more protection we're going to be able to give to others. So he was saying it's not like other worldly things that when we go down to the marketplace, we get our tarot read, or we hear, you know, from the fortunate teller that, you know, 2023 year of the rabbit is going to be a very tumultuous time. You've got to watch your health. If you engage in, you know, killing, great harm is going to come. Well, the Buddha's been saying that all along, hasn't he? Great harm is going to come from killing. But we take it more sincerely when we know that it's for 2023, if this is going to happen, you know. So it's kind of like and sometimes we invest more into the protection of the fortune teller or the worldly beings than in relation to, you know, infallible Sangha jewel Arya beings and so forth. But even ordinary Sangha, trying to live in precepts, trying to live in moral conduct, and trying to be a source of example and inspiration to others, and sadly, you know, messing up with our karma and afflictions, but also trying to quickly bring in antidotes and trying to get beyond things more quickly. So I can remember sometimes if someone ticked me off when I was at, you know, a work environment or a gym or whatever, then you know, I might not have to speak to that person ever again. But when you're a Sangha member and someone ticks you off, you kind of got to get over it. So you got to process it, because you live together, you sit together, you eat together. You know, you can't bear grudges. How can you bear grudges that last years and years and, you know, hold someone as a negative person or whatever? It's impossible. That's not practicing Dharma. So, you know, there is that thrust that we have to process. And it's not about just suppressing any feelings. You know, as things arise for us, there's going to be genuine hurt and frustration and whatever, but we need to antidote that and move through it and process it. And we may not be able to, you know, in all actions, I'll examine my mind, and the moment of delusion arises, since it endangers myself and others, I'll firmly face and avert it. You know, the 8 verses, what is it, like maybe verse 3, you know, we may not be able to, in that moment, that may not be our skill level. We may need to go through the feelings of the hurt or the pain and process and get to a point where we can, you know, overcome it with a genuine antidote that's based in genuine feeling. But yeah, we're all just doing our best, work in progress. But Rinpoche but he had that question, and he was saying it's not the same, because of the way we're trying to live our life, and not to be distracted by all the worldly, amassing, you know, gains and reputations. And it doesn't mean we're free of it all, but we're endeavoring to do our best. So he was saying there's a big difference.
That's the beauty of the observation, of knowing that, yeah, the ordained are just like us. They're just, yeah, that's
And that's right. And that's where I thought Aaron was going with something he said earlier, but he went a different direction, because he was talking about people who are closer to us, as opposed to like the guru or something like this. And I thought he was going to go on to say, because they're closer to us, we can see, you know, that they are just like us, but they're also trying their best like we are. We're all just trying our best. So I thought you were going to go down that line, Aaron, but you went a different path. So I couldn't predict what you were saying. Clearly, I have no clairvoyance. Clearly, I'm nowhere near even being a Sangha jewel. All right. Did anyone else have anything that they'd like to share at this point? So in conclusion, basically, to the Sangha, you know, jewels and so forth, Rinpoche was saying, even when we see a member of a Sangha, we can think, this person is guiding me. This person is freeing me from the lower realms. This person is freeing me from samsara. This person is bringing me to liberation and enlightenment. And so to try to develop that sense of respect and regard, that they're protecting me from dangers of cyclic existence, and guiding me in the path. So this also kind of echoes, like Shanti Deva's words to my mind as well, in the Bodhisattva's way of life. All right, so I'll just see if I can go back into share screen for a second. And I do appreciate sharing, because it's really nice. It's so good to hear from you guys. Okay, so when we want to come under the protection of the Sangha, so when we want to purify any negativities we've created in relation to the Sangha jewel and receive the qualities of the Sangha, of the bodhisattvas, and even the Dakas and Dakinis and the Yidams and all of this sort of stuff, the Buddha is also a Sangha jewel. So when we want to receive the realizations, receive the blessings, receive the qualities, and to come under the protection, then we do this practice. And this is where we can recite, I think it's Sanskrit, right? Maybe Namo Sanghaya, or I take refuge in the Sangha. And you can even like do your mala and just focus on, just get your mala and just do like a bead, I take refuge in the Sangha, and do the visualization that's going along with it of purifying the negativities. I take refuge in the Sangha, I take refuge in the Sangha. And, it's a wonderful practice. In saying that, I have to be honest with you, I've not actually done this refuge preliminary practice. So I know I've probably got, I think, 20,000 to do. And I hope to do that at some point. So maybe like this year or next year or sometime soon as one of my preliminaries. But yeah, I look very much forward to doing that. But I've got to be honest with you, I haven't done it except for when we do it in, some prayers, but I've not done it, at great length. So, but when we do this visualization of the nectar streaming down, purifying the negativities that we've created, it's the same concept all the time. And, leaving through the pores of our body in some sort of dirty, filthy, like liquid or something like that. The type of things we can be purifying is all the negativities we've created from beginningless time, not just in this life, from beginningless lives where we've criticized the Sangha, insulted them or called them like by animal names or complained about them. People who work in Dharma centers or involved with, programs or things like this where you come in contact with Sangha. I mean, I imagine they have many, like us, as Sangha members as well, they have many negativities to purify as well, because that's just the nature of our minds. When we're overcome by afflictions, we can think that, I'm better, I know differently. And, in praising ourselves, we're belittling others. And sadly, this is just the way of our attachment to ourselves and aversion. So we've all got negativities to purify. And like I was saying, the more we're in contact with Sangha, I think the more we have to purify in this way. So this is a big job for all of us. So in that way, this decreasing offerings is an interesting one. And I'm not sure it really affects too much of us in this life, but it's kind of like where if you're in a position where someone's going to make offering and you say, oh, you don't need to give that much, or kind of like if someone's wanting to give more and you encourage them to give less. So being a Sangha member, they are holding the Buddha's vows, they're a worthy object of offering, and so that person can accumulate much more merit in relation to that Sangha person. But if you try to influence and say, and it might be meaning well, it might be, oh, no, you don't need to give so much, keep, like, or don't give it all, or something like that, then this is also a negativity in the teachings of decreasing offerings that would have otherwise been given to Sangha. certainly getting angry with the Sangha, abusing them, calling them names. So we've got to be so careful. And Paponka Rinpoche talks about this in Liberation of the Palm of Your Hand. And the negative karma is even more potent in relation to Sangha, whether they be Sangha jewel or Sangha, living in the vow. And so we can accumulate many lifetimes of negativities if we use, like for instance, I've heard people say in relation to monkey, being funny or silly. This is not a good thing, because karma is the subtlety of karma we'll never fully understand, right, until we're a Buddha. And to say it to be funny or whatever is just not the right thing to do. It shows no respect and no refuge. But also from the teachings, it seems that oneself will experience maybe 500 lives as a monkey or something like this. So I think it's really something in our language that we need to be cautious of, that we're not disrespecting through calling animal names and things like that. The other thing we can purify when we're doing, or purifying any negativities in relation to Sangha, is if we've inadvertently or, deliberately through self-cherishing, just, walked over their robes or, been disrespectful like that, or their sitting cloth, their dingma, any of these sorts of things. Obviously, abusing them or liking some Sangha and not liking other Sangha, and disrespecting that person or that group but liking this other group. This is something very much not in accord with Refuge, and therefore not in accord with Dharma. Remember, Refuge is how we enter into the Buddha's teachings. So how can we possibly enter into the Buddha's teachings and enter in via Refuge if we hold some Sangha as, say, precious, and some Sangha as okay, and some Sangha is not so good, not going to, think of them in a pleasant way? Because then what Rinpoche is telling us, Lama Zopa Rinpoche and so forth, is that we're creating our own version of Refuge, that I'm going to have refuge in this group, but not this group. And this is not the way. This is not the teachings of the Buddha. And, it's just great negativities that we create. So when we know better, hopefully we do better. And this is how we're constantly changing and evolving, and are constantly a work in progress, and constantly a continuum that's moving in the momentum of actually embodying the Dharma and becoming Sangha jewel, Dharma jewel, Buddha jewel. So yeah, these are easy mistakes that we all make. So when you purify those negativities, they come out in the form of, this dirty, filthy liquid leaving our body. Then we bring in, more nectar. And this time, quite often when we bring in the receiving qualities, the blessings, often we change the color of our nectar from, cleansing, purifying white to now like, this like liquid gold color, and, golden nectar, light rays, this sort of thing. And so we can imagine when we're doing, I take refuge in the Sangha, I take refuge in the Sangha, we're doing the visualization of bringing in from, do you remember the elaborated refuge merit field I showed you at the beginning from Lama Zopa? You can imagine all of those light rays coming and blessing your body, speech, and mind. I take refuge in the Sangha, and all of that coming along and receiving all their qualities. So from the bodhisattvas, receiving qualities like their precious bodhicitta, the wish to attain enlightenment for the welfare of all sentient beings. That is more than just a great compassion of taking responsibility, but actually embodying that altruistic wish of, for the welfare of sentient beings as the cause, for the welfare of sentient beings, I will attain enlightenment, or great compassion, wishing all sentient beings to be free of suffering. Right now, we do have compassion for those who we hold close. Sometimes we have compassion for other beings. If we see something, harmed on the TV, or I've even got compassion. I don't know if it's controversial to say, but what's his name from Rust, the actor, Alec Baldwin. I feel so much compassion for him right now, being, charged with the situation, the killing, the involuntary manslaughter or whatever it is. So much difficulty and that beings have. We do have compassion for beings, but this great compassion obviously is more than that. This is simultaneously all sentient beings wishing they'd be free of suffering and its causes, not just the ones we know, not just the ones we like, not just the ones we hold close or get a sense of affinity for, but every single living being, particularly those that cause us grief and strife. So seeing them as precious and helping us to practice patience, helping us to develop great compassion, helping us to achieve bodhicitta and the stages of the path. So we need the people that give us grief, that destroy our reputation. If they only praise us, then maybe our ego would be even more strong. So we do need the ones that are challenging and so forth. So these bodhisattvas, they're six perfections: generosity, morality, patience, joyous effort, concentration, various wisdoms. So we imagine receiving their blessings and their qualities, their realizations. So amazing, so precious. From the arhats, like the hira arhats, the solitary realizer arhats, they have, for instance, ethics. On the basis of ethics, concentration, single-pointed concentration. On the basis of concentration, they develop their wisdom, these three trainings, which are the what do they call it? Something like the in Lama Zopa, the treasure of the Arya's wealth, or something like this. That move them towards liberation. So we definitely want to receive these amazing, precious qualities. From the Dukkha's and Dakinis, this is all talking about like tantric stuff or things like this, maybe like, non-dual bliss and emptiness. So, anyway, I won't talk about that, and we'll save that for when you guys do the tantric module of Discovering Buddhism. But this is a means by which we can, develop this blissful mind, realizing emptiness, and in this way bring the two truths somehow together to attain enlightenment in a brief lifetime through, receiving an empowerment and engaging in generation stage and completion stage and completing the qualities in Tantra, highest yoga Tantra, for instance. Protectors, different qualities of pacifying, increasing control and wrath. So, these are also qualities that we can embody when we want to pacify diseases or obscurations. We can imagine receiving these qualities from in the merit field. There was the protectors down the bottom. If we want to increase our health and lifespan and, our wisdom and all of these sorts of things. Sometimes we need to, subdue beings. Certainly, advanced beings can practice these types of things. And so when we get to those sort of advanced levels, we can too. But in the meantime, we can imagine receiving the qualities so that we can practice them in the future. I think I'll skip that. I've just stopped share for a second. So are there any questions at this stage? Anything you wanted to ask? So maybe I'll ask you then, why do you think we've discussed Buddha jewel, Dharma jewel, and Sangha jewel, yet we haven't really talked explicitly about a fourth jewel? Do you know what the fourth jewel would be if we had a fourth jewel? The Guru. We haven't really talked about the Guru so much, have we? I've tried to bring it in, here and there because it's so wonderful and precious and important. But, we talk about three jewels, not a fourth jewel. So why do you think we haven't got the Guru as a separate jewel? Kodo, are you saying something or are you just miming? It sounds like, no, it's a movie. What?
Because I'm studying the Lam Rim, and so in Lam Rim, we just finished day 64. No, day 63. And so we see, and I don't have a personal guru, but we see the guru or the Dalai Lama or any of our beings as Buddha. So it's the direct, that's what the fingers were, the direct connection. It's the same. And even if they're a lama or a geshe and we may not like the color of their socks that day and we get a little niggle and think that they're just a human, we have to let that go and we say, I trust they are in connection with Buddha. They are the Buddha, a Buddha. So,
Awesome.
same.
Brilliant. Thank you. Indeed. That's from the Mahayana perspective. Yeah. So I think when I did the Buddha Jewel module with you, we talked about like even coming closer to the Buddha Jewel, you know, the Guru is Buddha, the Buddha is the Guru is Buddha, Buddha is the Guru. Remember that was one of the things that I found quite helpful that I shared with you as getting closer to a mind, because we're not trying to attach to a body, are we? We're trying to develop this refuge in relation to the omniscient mind of all the Buddhas, one with all gurus, one with all Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, you know, all this embodiment. And so it's something, you know, quite expansive. And the Buddha's mind pervades all phenomena because it knows all phenomena. So it knows every part of our body. It knows every moment of our mind. You know, wherever is Buddha's holy body is Buddha's holy speech and mind. These three go together. So wherever the holy mind is, the holy body is. Wherever the holy body is, the speech is. And so we're never separated. The Guru is Buddha. The Buddha is the Guru. So what need for four objects of refuge? Same. Yeah. Okay. It's 10:02. So that's really concluding our talk on the three jewels explicitly. I was just wondering if you have noticed any development post, class. Is there any change? Like when we go through doing the refuge prayer, for instance, or when you're at your house and you see, you know, objects, is there any change that you feel has taken place in your mind? Or have you strengthened in any way? I mean, come on, it's only like a few weeks, guys, so I'm not expecting miracles here. But, you know, has there been any newness or change or development for you to make, you know, any of this feel worthwhile already? Or maybe it's still got to be brewing over, you know, I can't even speak now. You might be like me, a slow learner, and things take time for me. So, you know, where are you guys at? Has there any new change, new habits? Are we still throwing our iPad onto the car seat?
Today I got a book, my post office box for the Shantideva, deeds of the bodhisattva. And I have a very small post office box, and my book was folded in and crammed in there. And I was, my heart was,
I know,
was like,
I felt it.
oh, oh.
I know.
Like, oh my, and I took it out and I really, oh my, I'm sorry. And oh, I felt horrible. Yes, I've changed. And this morning I was looking at this. You see my Buddha field, my merit field?
Gorgeous.
And I was like, I wonder what that's really about. That's probably a 9-month class.
Yeah, I think so.
But now after your explanation, I'm just going to see all the light coming into me and blessing my body, my speech, and my mind. Thank you so much.
You got a spare bed there? I might come too when it's warmer. Yeah, good. Thank you for sharing, Kodo.
Dear Venerable, I would just say that listening to your classes, it's a reminder to up my game, because I slide, and the inspiration that I get from you and from the participants, quite frankly,
Totally.
it just gives you a real boost and makes you just try harder, and just stops you doing naughty stuff.
Good. I fully concur, my learned friend. And I'm the same. And this is why I said from the get-go, I think refuge is evolving. It's not a beginner topic, is it? It's far from a beginner topic. Refuge goes throughout all of our practice, right? All through, highest yoga tantra, everything. Without refuge, there is no Dharma practice. It's not a beginner practice by any stretch. And it's the word I used was evolving. For me, it feels like an evolving practice. We catch ourselves and we go, oops, I've lost my way for a moment there. I need to get back on track and make more firm, make more established, more entrenched some of these practices, because I've got a little bit slack here or there. So I think it's a beautiful thing to remind ourselves of refuge, and not just to pass it in the text and go, okay, done that, or tick it off module, let's say 7 or whatever it is, tick it off, done that. It's something very beautiful. And so I actually thank you guys for giving me this opportunity to refresh my refuge and to look at where I'm, failing, and where I need to pick myself up, not with criticism and beating myself up, but work in progress. How can I improve? Oh, I can see that. And thank you. Do you know what I mean? So really nice and gentle, seeing where we're falling down, picking ourselves up, and going forward. So I think this, it's constantly evolving. And remember Chandrakirti? Oh, could you imagine meeting Chandrakirti? How amazing would that be? Oh, Chandrakirti, what did he say? Buddha, Dharma, Sangha is refuge for those desirous of liberation. This is the purpose. Most of us just want happiness in this life, don't we? We don't really sort of think beyond this life sometimes. But for our refuge to be pure, we need to evolve it so that we're actually seeking liberation from samsara. Seeking, of course, happiness in this life, and seeking not to go to the lower realms next life, if there is such a thing, which I firmly believe there is. But, jury could be out in that for you. Don't rush, but just investigate. Whatever the situation, no harm in accepting that there might be future lives for now. No harm will come of it. And if there is a future life, well, you've prepared yourself well. So, not just happiness in this life. Too often we're just seeking happiness in this life. But more than that, to even become a small scope practitioner and seek to be free of the lower realms and attain happiness in future lives. But that's not enough. So we need to evolve it more to actually seek Buddha, Dharma, Sangha as our refuge. Why? Because we want to be free of samsara, free of circling, free of afflictions, free of negative karma. We want liberation. But that's not enough either. How can we possibly liberate ourselves and everyone else we love and care for and got us to that very state still continue to suffer? And so we need to go further than that in our refuge, in our reliance, to attain the Dharma jewel, true paths, true cessations, become the Sangha jewel, the being who possesses true paths and true cessations, continue to abandon obscurations, including knowledge obscurations, and attain the Buddha jewel. And all this is possible because we have that Buddha nature. So let's do some dedications then, hey? Screen share. Now, actually, I want to hop out of this for a second. If I Okay, let's see if I can work my computer. I'm guessing what that says. I don't. Oh, there it is. That's what I'm wanting. Play in window. Hey, why'd you go to there? Stop. Excuse my inability. Okay. I mustn't have clicked on the slide before I went. There we go. Now we're cooking with gas. Okay. I'll just screen share again. Second time works like a charm. Almost, anyway. Okay, so how fortunate we've been together, sharing this time, sharing, your knowledge, your expertise, your experience, all of your faith and everything. So, thank you so much for all of this and, pooling all that together, all of our virtue. And we can join it all with the virtue of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, as if there's this one giant ocean of virtue. And we can imagine that we dedicate all of that. So before we do, remember how the I exists, the action of dedicating, and the merit itself for the welfare of sentient beings, for their enlightenment, all totally empty. Not existing at all independently. Existing merely labeled by mind. And so keeping that mindset throughout as much as possible. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of a Guru Buddha, that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Whatever white virtues were thus created, we dedicated as causes, enabling us to uphold the holy Dharma of scripture and realization, and to fulfill without exception the prayers and deeds of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 3 times. By the force of this merit, may we never be parted in all our lives from Mahayana's 4 wheels, and may we reach the end of our journey along the paths of renunciation, bodhicitta, pure view, and the 2 stages of tantric practice. Incomparably kind and supreme Tenzin Gyatso, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, may you have a long life and all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. You who uphold the subjural's moral way, who serve as a bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayers honoring the 3 sublime ones, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. Okay. So thank you, everyone. Good night to you. And I know there's a couple of people from Australia here. I can see their names. So good afternoon to you guys. But I wish you all auspiciousness in all your activities and look forward to karmically being able to come together again next week. Thank you.